Taking a firm stand on the issue of misleading advertisements, the Supreme Court has said that celebrities and social media influencers are equally liable if the commercial for the product or service featuring them is found to be deceptive. During its hearing in the Patanjali Ayurved misleading advertisements case, in which it also pulled up the Indian Medical Association earlier in the day, the court said that broadcasters will also have to file a self-declaration form before carrying any advertisements, stating that the commercials comply with the relevant rules. Now, to discuss this further, it's a very interesting development and observations rather coming in from the Supreme Court. On the show, I'm joined by Pranjal Kamra, social media influencer, and Khushbu Jain, advocate, a legal expert and advocate from the Supreme Court. Thank you to both of you for joining me on the show tonight. First, before I go to Pranjal, let me go across to Khushbu Jain. I want to understand from you what a lot of people would want to know. What is the success rate in terms of, because of course, a big celeb face being attached to an ad or an endorsement helps to sell the product. But how many times in your experience have you seen celebrities being taken to task legally when it comes to such deceptive ads?
See, this area is yet to grow. If you talk about India, we have got very rare cases where a celebrity has been put to this misleading advertisements and content in that regard. But if you'll see, the rules are very strict. The rules have come up very strict with penalties up to 10 lakhs in certain, if it's a repeated done, then 50 lakh rupees. Also, it has gone to an extent where it will say that you will be barred for putting any kind of advertisements for a year, and it can go to 3 years of disbarment of these influencers. And if you see how much influencers earn out of this as their livelihood, these kind of penalties are pretty hefty for their profession. Now, coming globally, everybody is striving to it, and we have seen how FTC or Germany or other companies have put in penalties. And if you'll see, Kim Kardashian's was the one of the famous cases where she went on putting an advertisement or an influence ad on social media platform for a crypto. Now that crypto, where FTC became very strict, and FTC and SEC became that you went on endorsing a crypto without saying that how much money and who were the one you were putting this advertisement for, and it becomes a violation of the advertisements rules which have been there without telling that who you are putting it for, and she was being made to pay hefty penalty. So we have seen that how this entire game is changing worldwide, where influencers are growing exponentially, and that traditional way of advertisements have now shifted to these celebrities, to the influencers over social media, maybe because of the direct reach and how niche this market has become. Because we are seeing that how world is also changing, and India has also gotten those rules, the rules which we are talking about, the one which was being spoken today in the court, the reference which was being given about those rules which were come under the Consumers Protection Act of 2019. These rules are pretty strict. If you look into, and penalties coming under the Consumer Protection Act are also pretty strict.
Right. We'll come back to the rules and regulations in a bit. But Pranjal, to you now, as a social media influencer, you must have seen the Supreme Court's very strong observations today. But what precautions, let me ask you, as a practice, would an influencer like you take before endorsing a product in order to ensure that you're not promoting anything deceptive?
Right. Firstly, as a influencer also and as a law graduate also, I really respect this decision. This was much needed. I think it's very simple. Mostly when you are picking up a brand, deciding on a brand, it's common sense. Sometimes, and I would take us collectively, sometimes we get greedy and we think that no one is watching, but basically everyone is watching, and we know by common sense in most cases what to do, what not to do. Just to give you an example, say in my domain specifically, in finance, it's more highly regulated. The onus on finance and healthcare influencers is obviously more. It should be more. But in my case, say if a brand comes, what do I have to look? I have to look whether it's a regulated entity or not. So if an influencer, say, promotes cryptos, definitely it's a gray area. 2021, 22, I saw ads during, cricket tournaments, celebrities promoting cryptos and things like that. Now, it's clearly you can't be doing that. I can understand when sometimes you are advocating or promoting for a very well-regulated brand who's following all the norms, and later it turns out to be fishy. But if you're promoting entities like Forex, promoting entities like, basically some herbal companies claiming to cure miracle drugs, as what happens sometimes if you switch on late night television, you see celebrities promoting all kind of miracle cures. So this is basically blatantly doing fraud, blatantly not allowing your conscience to actively pursue what's good, what's right. So I think first it should be a regulated entity. Its claims should be something that seems reasonable. You know, if tomorrow some unknown drug maker from Himalaya claims they can cure diabetes, prima facie is doubtful because there are pharma companies doing billions of dollars of R&D and still not being able to come up with a
Right.
drug like that. So if common sense is there, I think most cases can be avoided.
Right. Khushbu, as we were discussing the rules and regulations which are already in place, but as you said that, traditional ads and the way ads are disseminated or promotions are done now has completely changed. Influencers are used a lot more liberally than maybe even mainstream celebs for that matter. In that case, do you feel because a lot of these promotions are happening on social media, the regulations are a bit in the grey area, have not still been strengthened to that extent that we can actually take somebody to court for promoting a deceptive product?
No, I think we do have guidelines in place which are under the, if I'll have to put it across, it's guidelines for prevention of misleading advertisement and endorsement for misleading advertisement 2022. Now, if you see these guidelines, they are very clear. They have been very clearly been defined that what do you mean by, what are the duties of manufacturer or advertiser or advertising agency, and what are the duties when it comes to influencer, and those due diligence are very clearly defined. They've also put in what are the penalties, how you have to apply if you find something, if some mishap, if some kind of if these duties are not being followed by these influencers or these advertisement agencies or these advertisers, then what are the penalty clauses? Those are also very clearly defined. And if it's repetitive, what are the penalty clauses? So if you look into the rules, we are very much there as compared to other countries as well, and there are a lot of countries which are still growing. So when it comes to law, I think they are very much there from 2022. When it comes to enforcement of this law or awareness of this law, where people or consumers like you and me have to have utilization of this law, is where I think we are lacking. The other thing which I want to bring it is that all these, you do talk about publishers or channels like NDTV and others who have been now put a clear undertaking that we will not endorse anything which is against any of these guidelines. But what about social media platform? We are bringing nothing for that. I'm not saying social media platforms where something has been put by you and read by me, but there are so many paid promotions. Those happens over these platforms, and all influencers, I think my co-panelists will agree that how much you pay for those promotions of your advertisements to get majority of the likes and visibility and things across like that.
Right. I'm sorry, I'm running out of time, but I'll give the last 20 seconds to Pranjal. Any last words? Pranjal, you have 20 seconds.
No, I think, as influencers, it's very important that people look up to us. We can't be endorsing things like, surrogate advertising and then promoting things like tobacco, pan masala, gambling. These are heroes. So we own that responsibility. People make us. We can't be promoting things like that. I'm very, very warmly welcome these guidelines.
Right. Pranjal Kamra, Khushbu Jain, thank you so much for joining me on the show tonight.